I am currently sitting in a beat-up rented sedan parked 3 houses down from a property I designed in my dreams. It's a modern craftsman with a wraparound porch and a custom stained glass window over the front door. A window I spent 3 weeks sketching back in 2012. I can see the warm glow of the kitchen lights. I see a woman who has my face, my height, and my exact smile. She's laughing. She's pouring a glass of wine for a man who used to call me his soulmate. Then she leans down to kiss 2 children, children who have my eyes, but have never heard my voice. To the world, that woman is Sarah. To the world, I am Elena, the unstable twin who suffered a psychotic break after a tragic accident 11 years ago. For 4,015 days, I have lived behind reinforced glass and white walls. For 4,015 days, every nurse who walked into my room looked at me with a mixture of pity and exhaustion. Every time I tried to tell them, I am Sarah, my sister stole my life, they would just sigh, make a note in my chart about persistent delusions, and increase my dosage of clozapine. They told me Sarah died in a fiery car crash in the woods. They told me I was the one driving drunk. They told me I was lucky my sister's fiancé, Mark, was kind enough to pay for my long-term care out of the goodness of his grieving heart. But today, the gates finally opened. Not because they believe me, but because I spent 3 years pretending to be the broken Elena they wanted me to be. I learned to lie better than my sister. I learned to swallow my pills and hide them under my tongue. I learned to smile and say, I miss my sister Sarah so much, until the doctors finally signed the release forms. I'm not here for a tearful reunion. I'm not here to beg for my life back. I'm here because I realize that if you want to destroy a monster, you don't just reveal the truth. You have to burn down the world they built on your ashes. Let's go back to the night the world ended. August 14th, 2013. We were at our family's cabin in the Berkshires. It was supposed to be my last weekend as a single woman. Mark and I were getting married in 2 weeks. I was at the peak of my career. I had just landed the contract for the new city library. Life was perfect. Too perfect for Elena to watch from the sidelines anymore. Elena had always been a shadow. We were identical, yes, but while I built structures, she tore them down. She was drowning in debt from business ventures that were really just scams. She was bitter. I remember her sitting across from me that night, the firelight dancing in her eyes, making them look like something predatory. You have everything, Sarah, she had whispered. I thought she was being sentimental. I thought she was happy for me. She offered me a cup of herbal tea. I remember the smell, hibiscus and honey, but with a sharp metallic undertone, like copper, like blood. I only got halfway through the cup before my vision started to swim. I remember trying to stand up, but my legs felt like they were made of lead. I looked at her, and she wasn't moving. She was just watching me with this terrifying, calm expression. The next few hours are a blur of nightmare fuel. I remember being dragged. I remember the smell of gasoline and the cold dampness of the forest floor. I remember her face hovering over mine, whispering, "Don't worry, Sarah. I'll take care of Mark. I'll take care of everything. You just need to rest." Then, the impact. The sound of metal screaming against a pine tree, the heat of the fire. When I woke up in the ICU, my jaw was wired shut. My throat was raw from the smoke and the intubation. I saw Mark standing at the foot of the bed. I tried to reach for him, to tell him I was there, but he didn't look at me with love. He looked at me with disgust. "How could you do it, Elena?" he asked. His voice was shaking. "You were drunk. You killed her. You killed Sarah." I tried to scream. I tried to thrash. But a nurse rushed in and sedated me. By the time I woke up again, Elena, wearing my engagement ring and my favorite silk blouse, was sitting in the chair next to me. She leaned in close, her breath hot against my ear, and whispered, "The police found your ID in the driver's seat, Elena. Everyone knows the truth now. If you ever try to tell them otherwise, I'll tell them you tried to kill me on purpose. And who are they going to believe? The successful architect, or the drunk loser who just killed her twin? I spent my first 3 nights of freedom in a motel that smelled like stale cigarettes and cheap bleach. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the dashboard of that car crumpling toward me. I saw Elena's silhouette standing on the road, watching the flames as she calmly swapped our purses. I had exactly $600, cash I'd been skimming from my occupational therapy jobs over the last 2 years. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a burner phone and a black hoodie. I needed to see them. I needed to see how they lived in the house my sweat and my late nights had paid for. The first time I saw Mark, my heart didn't flutter. It felt like a stone dropping into a well. He was pulling into the driveway of their home. He looked older, thicker around the middle, carrying a designer briefcase. Then she came out. Elena. She was wearing a beige cashmere sweater I used to love. She kissed him. It wasn't a quick, distracted kiss. It was lingering, performative. I waited until they went out for their anniversary dinner 2 nights later. I knew their routine because Elena, in her supreme arrogance, had been posting day-in-the-life videos on a public Instagram account. She wanted the world to envy the life she stole. Breaking in was terrifyingly easy. I had designed the security system myself in 2012. I knew the blind spot in the backyard camera near the oak tree. I knew the secondary keypad code, our first dog's birthday. When the deadbolt clicked open, I felt like a ghost entering my own mausoleum. Everything was the same, yet sickeningly different. My sketches were gone, replaced by generic, expensive, abstract art that Elena thought looked sophisticated. My library of architectural history had been swapped for self-help books and travel magazines. I went straight to Mark's home office. I sat in his leather chair, the one I bought him for his 30th birthday. I felt a wave of nausea, but I forced it down. I needed the digital trail. I knew Mark. He's a man of habit. He thinks he's brilliant, which makes him careless. His password was still the date of our engagement, October 12th, 2008. I didn't start with the bank accounts. I started with the deleted items in his private email archive. I expected to find evidence of a man who had been duped. I expected to find him mourning me. But as I scrolled through the messages from the summer of 2013, the room started to spin. There were emails sent to an encrypted address, photos of me taken from a distance with notes attached. She found the audit one email from Mark read. She knows about the $3 million missing from the firm's development fund. She's going to the board on Monday. Elena, we're out of time. The reply from Elena came 2 hours later. The cabin trip is set. I have the pills. If we do the switch now, we don't just get rid of the witness. We get her shares of the company, the house, and the insurance. You get to be the grieving hero, and I get to be, well, I get to be her. I sat there in the dark, the blue light of the monitor reflecting in my eyes. It wasn't just a sister's jealousy. It was a business transaction. My husband hadn't been tricked into loving a twin. He had hired a replacement to avoid a prison sentence. I could have called the police right then, but I looked at the photos of the children on his desk. My children. They were born after the accident. Elena had used my body, my DNA, to give Mark a family while I was rotting in a cell. If I just went to the cops, they'd hire the best lawyers. It would be my word, a certified lunatic, against the pillar of the community. No, I needed them to break from the inside out. I wanted them to feel the same creeping madness I felt for 11 years. I didn't leave the house empty-handed. I took the Project E files on a thumb drive, but I also did something small, something petty. I moved the furniture just an inch. I shifted Mark's desk. I swapped the positions of the salt and pepper shakers. I took one, just one, of Elena's favorite earrings from her jewelry box. The next day, I started the calls. I used a voice modulator app to match my own voice from 11 years ago. I had plenty of old video footage to sample. I called Elena's private cell at 3 a.m. When she answered, I didn't say anything. I just played the sound of the wind through the Berkshires trees and the faint, distorted sound of a car blinker. Click, click, click. I did this every night for a week. On the fourth day, I saw her through the window. She was pale. She was shouting at Mark. She was looking over her shoulder every time she walked to her car. She started seeing ghosts. I left a single hibiscus flower, the flavor of the tea she poisoned me with, on her windshield. I watched her scream when she saw it. She threw it on the ground and trampled it. But I saw her hands shaking. She knew. She knew the dead twin was back. Then I went for the foundation. I didn't send the emails to the police. I sent them to the one person Mark feared more than the law. His primary investor, a man who prided himself on family values and integrity. I sent them anonymously with a timer. The truth will be public in 48 hours. Decide which side you're on. I was no longer just a victim. I was the architect of their downfall, and I was designing a masterpiece of ruin. The night of the architecture firm's 25th Anniversary Gala was the perfect stage. Everyone was there. The mayor, the investors, their entire social circle. Elena was terrified, but she couldn't skip it. She had to maintain the image. She wore a stunning red silk gown, the kind of dress I used to wear when I wanted to feel powerful. She was standing on the stage, a microphone in her hand, ready to give a speech about growth and resilience. I walked in through the service entrance. I had the nanny's old recording, the one where Elena confessed to the switch while she thought the house was empty. I had patched it into the ballroom's audio-visual system 20 minutes earlier. As Elena opened her mouth to speak, the lights dimmed. But instead of her tribute video, the giant screens behind her flickered to life with the text of the Project E emails. Then, the audio started. I'm wearing her skin, Mark. I'm sleeping in her bed. It's easier than I thought. She's screaming in that hospital, and nobody is listening. We're safe. The sound of my sister's voice, cold and triumphant, echoed through the hall. The silence that followed was heavy. It was the sound of 1,000 people realizing they had been applauding a monster. Elena froze. She looked like a statue made of salt. Mark tried to run for the exit, but the investor's security team was already blocking the doors. I stepped out from the shadows of the balcony. I wore no mask. I didn't hide. I walked down the center aisle, the crowd parting for me like the Red Sea. I climbed the stairs to the stage. I didn't slap her. I didn't scream. I just leaned into the microphone and said, "You missed a spot in the window in the study, Elena. I told you I hate streaks." The look in her eyes wasn't just fear. It was the realization that she had never really been me. She was just a tenant in a life she couldn't afford to keep. The legal battles took 2 years. Elena is in a maximum security ward. Poetic justice, I suppose. Mark is serving 15 years for conspiracy and financial fraud. I didn't take the house back. I sold it and gave the money to a foundation for victims of domestic and psychological abuse. I didn't want the memories. I have my children now. It took a long time for them to understand that the woman they called Mom was a stranger, and the crazy aunt was their mother. We're healing. Slowly. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I still see the girl from the cabin. But then I remember that she died that night. The woman who replaced her, well, she's not as nice. She's not as trusting, but she's alive. And she's finally Sarah.